It's Wednesday. Let's chat. Hi, I'm Kanan Chandran, the publisher of stormasia.com, and this is the WED Web Chat, our regular series of discussions on a variety of issues, topics that are current, that are trending, that are topical. And it's a new year, Kong Si Fa Chai. It's a year of the very wet water rabbit. We had a wet start to the year, but some say that's good luck. Well, it's nice and cool at any rate. And so as we return to normal gatherings, which has been some time since the pandemic, we can also turn our attention to more regular matters and ongoing matters that have come into our lives and will continue to take over things and as we run with it. So for the silver generation, this has been a good year for them to pick up where they left off, where we couldn't have a lot of meetings. Now we have the social gatherings. We can start interacting with others. We can start engaging with all the activities that we were doing before. This is the golden age for many of us in the silver generation. We have harnessed knowledge and experience, hopefully some cash to support us as well. Although with rising costs, you got to see how that's going to shape up. So it's not smooth sailing necessarily, but since as you're aging, you'll also realize the system is starting to show its signs, aches and pains and whatnot. But still, we have got what it takes to try and make the most of what we have and the time we have on hand. So today's discussion is about the Golden Runway. How do you make the most of it? And we've got two panelists who are shining brightly in their respective areas of interests. So we've got Dana Lam, who's an author and an artist. She used to be a journalist. She became an accidental activist and the president of WED twice. She's now a grandmother and is focusing on her art. She has just published a book with Checkpoint Theatre. We also have Chong Huai Seng, who's a Colombo Plan scholar who worked with the Economic Development Board promoting US investments and in 2003 he became an angel investor in startup companies in Singapore and China, developing an interest along the way in Chinese contemporary ink, Southeast Asian art, and street art. He is a co-founder of the Culture Story and Family Office for Art with his daughter. Looking back at the years you've spent in your respective areas, what are the lessons you think you take from your early years and apply today as you engage in other activities?
For me, is not to waste time in whining about not having enough time, not to waste time in self-doubt, and that I don't think there's anything that can replace just going ahead and doing what you intend to do or want to do. You can do it slowly. You can do it one step at a time, half a step at a time, 3 steps at a time, whatever is your own timing. But get going, My greatest struggle really is over the years has been how to be an artist and how to sort of get going as an artist and a writer. These are the two areas that has always been what attracted me, right? From 7 years old, from the time I could pick up a pencil, because of my own home environment and my own societal environment and culture. There was a lot of, you didn't feel like it was something that could happen. It didn't feel like something that an ordinary person like myself can do. Because I think a lot of us, I don't know about today, because I noticed today, the thing that I admire about people today is that I think they have much less fear and they just get up and do and go. But in my time, it's almost like, especially when you're talking about art making, it seems to belong to a different realm. You are either really rich and superly exposed and so forth to be able to do that kind of thing, the fine art with a capital A type thing, literature with a capital L. So if you were going to write, you make literature. So in recent years, the biggest learning for myself really is that you just keep doing what is driving you inside to do, and you let the work show up. You let the work show up for itself. But the other thing is that you let yourself show up in the work. I think that I spent a lot of my youth kind of like just locking and blocking myself. I blame it, or rather I whine. I don't blame, but I whine a lot about having to do other things, like, I mean, which everybody else has to do, make a living. You can't make a living from art, and then manage a home, be a mother, etc., etc. But I come to, and it always felt like I had to do all those things before I can sit down and do my writing or my art. And I always think I need a 3-hour stretch before I can start anything. And so therefore it's difficult to have a 3-hour start, and that as the 3 hours stretched. And therefore I don't start. And therefore, it's been it's taken me a very long time to get here. Yeah.
Chong, so how about yourself? You've got the rich, sort of varied experience in finance and then in the art as well. Does what Dana say ring true, that you can't make a living from art? In your case, can you?
Well, I don't know. I'm spending a lot of money on art, that's for sure. Well, I think for me, if you look at my own life experience, basically, I think I follow what Steve Jobs said, his very famous words: be hungry, be foolish, be curious. So in a way, that has been my philosophy as well, and I'm a guy who is very blessed. I had the experience of working for the government. I had the experience of working in the finance sector for many years. I had the excitement of being a publisher, where I ran a magazine company that was probably the biggest at its time in the 90s. We had something like more than 20 titles, both in Singapore and Malaysia, and it was a listed company. It was fun. It was fun. And when I kind of like sold out my shares and retired in 2003, I then spent a lot of time in looking at young companies, startups, putting some money here and there. And it's been a wonderful journey. In this journey, somehow art became very much part of it. It was like an accomplice to my life as an entrepreneur, because I started looking at art when I traveled to London, to Europe very, very regularly in the 80s, when I was running the stockbroking arm and the fund management arm of British companies. And I used to do a lot of shopping after my work at weekends. And the shopping is really in galleries, So I would go to the museums, get inspired, and then I would go to some of the galleries and started looking at art and started buying art. Now, I never realized that this little habit was eventually going to become an addiction. So much so that, today, after about 30 years, I have a few hundred works of art. And as you can see, behind me, this is one of my storage space that I'm speaking from. And this is just a small portion of the art which I've collected over the past, 35, 40 years. But it's been a joy. It's been a joy.
So it's with so many pieces of art, do you actually get to view them, or are there many of them just stored somewhere and you don't actually look at them much?
In the past, I don't have the chance to look at them, but now that I have this space called a culture story, I curate my collection and I do annual exhibitions, of my collection. So every exhibition, there could be about 30, 40 works that I would curate and put it up for show. So yes, I mean, over the past 5 years, I have basically been able to see, close to about 100 of my pieces, which I've acquired over the years.
Okay, so for both of you, it was a hobby that led to a professional career, sort of.
I don't approach it as a hobby. I approach it as part of my life. That's what it is actually. Yeah. It in fact it is my life, and and if I have been unhappy in past decades, I think it has been because I have not been able to spend time to and pay attention to this part of me that was very necessary for me to be whole, to feel whole. Yeah. So I can say that now I feel, even though I doubt that my work will ever end up in Mr. Chong's vast collection. There's a big hint, but
Hint taken.
it's really about being able to do it, and keep doing it, and that makes me feel complete. And it makes me feel I have entered like the best time of my life.
Okay. Do you feel the same way, Chong?
Yes, I mean, I do subscribe to this Hippocrates oath, which says that life is short, but art is long. I mean, we all know that life is short, right? In the sense that, we are lucky we are 80 plus or even 90 or whatever. Now, why is art long? Because to really do something well, I suppose at that time he was referring to medicine. Because to really become a good doctor, you need to practice and practice and practice. And the same with artists, there's no such thing as a sensation, overnight sensation. It doesn't happen. The guy who is a good artist probably have spent hours, years, decades practicing his art. And finally, he has achieved a practice and a breakthrough that is admired and recognized, by everybody. So I think it is the same for all of us, whether we are a journalist or a chef, unless you put in the hard work, you're never going to become the master of your trade. For me, I'm a collector. Again, the art of being a collector is really hard work. I have to go to a lot of art fairs. I have to go to a lot of art galleries. I have to cultivate relationships so that at the end of the day, I am able to refine my taste, so to speak, so that I can become a tastemaker, okay, as opposed to just following the crowd. When people say, "Oh, I think you should buy this artist," and I just follow because so and so, because 5 other people said I want to buy this artist. So I think that's what, to me, art is all about, it's about working on it until you become very good at it, if not the best at it.
That's really interesting, and thank you for saying that, Mr. Chong, because this idea of mastery, is something which, when we say mastery, we tend to think that there is like an end point, a peak, a summit that you reach and then you're there. But I think for the artist's journey, whichever your art is, no doubt in the beginning you're honing your skills in the directions that you want to go. But then I think this trying to top yourself, this trying to do something different, this mastery is almost like, for me, the moment I feel that I have reached a kind of comfort zone with a certain thing that I like to do, like, so I know there are certain things I can do with a brush or with a pencil or with an ink. And then at first, when you discover that thing that you can do, you're very excited and you do it and you do it and do it and you make mistakes. And then one day you find that, hey, I'm so comfortable with it. I can do it anytime with my eyes closed. And I that is a mastery of sort, I suppose. But for the journey, for the individual's journey, the challenge becomes, okay, what do I do next? I need to take this somewhere else, and that challenge is sometimes both the joy and the pain of the journey of trying to make a creative practice. So for me, of course, then it's very interesting for me when I'm looking at another artist's work. It's always extremely interesting for me to see like the trajectory they have journeyed at the beginning, what kind of things they were doing and how they shift as time goes by. So I wonder if that kind of thing is also an interest to a collector like yourself, or do you, as you say, you recognize a piece of work for where it is at that moment in time, in terms of its mastery?
I think
So
that you
it's
made a very good point, Dana, because a good artist struggles with his craft. I know of a lot of artists, let's say in China, in the peak of the market for contemporary Chinese art. They were selling works for a few $1,000s, then tens of $1,000s, then before you know it, it's for millions of dollars, right? But they have established a certain style, something like their trademark style. If you remember, there's a very famous Chinese contemporary artist called Zhang Xiaogang. He paints this children, with the parents, and then he's got a little line sticking between, the father to the child, which is supposed to signify something. Those were very iconic. And if you bought them early, you would have made 10 times your investment within about 5 to 8 years. Now, because those were very iconic images, a lot of the rich tycoons in China basically said, look, I also want to have this painting in my house or in my office because it will demonstrate that I have good taste. I have bought this artist. So what do? They commission the artist. They say, Mr. Zhang Xiaogang, how much money do you want? I need a painting, I don't know, 3 feet by 5 feet. Name your price. 5 million? Not enough. 8 million? Not enough. 20 million. Okay? So poor Mr. Zhang Xiaogang, he accepts one commission, and the next thing you know, he has got 10 other commissions or 20 other commissions. Now, from what I hear, Mr. Zhang Xiaogang hates it because he has got no time to explore other styles. He is dead as an artist for the next 5 years to fulfill the contracts, so to speak. You see? So I think there's it's a big challenge lah. If you want to be a real artist, you know, and you want to really so-called reinvent or rediscover your ability, then you have to be prepared. You have to prepare to sacrifice, you know, to say, nope, I don't want all this easy commissions. It's easy money, but in the history of art, you know, when I'm gone, I will be nobody.
But isn't that also a case of managing the commissions? I mean, that's greed if you decide to take 5 or 10 commissions and then find yourself strapped. You could have just taken one. That would have settled you in terms of your financial needs for a while as you go then and explore after that, right?
Yeah, but
That's just
Kanan,
human
you
nature,
know,
isn't it?
I hate to say this, you know, but you know, in the China system, you cannot say no to certain people,
Yeah.
right? Because
Oh.
it is not like other places where, thank you very much, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh,
You might
I'll leave
really
it at
be
that.
gone after that, is it?
Yeah.
so sad.
Yeah. Okay. So, just looking at this whole area for both of you, then it's still about driving a business, right? I mean, for in your own way, because Dana, you write your books, you like to sell them. When you paint, you like to sell them. Chong, as you collect, you're also spotting new artists and trying to market them and develop them. So it's about continuing a business activity, right? So does the notion of retirement even come to play for both of you?
I'm quite addicted to work, you know. So I I can't see myself retiring in the sense of you know, the golden sunset and having a very no agenda kind of schedule. Um, so I'm very blessed that this hobby, which is really meant to be a hobby when I started collecting art, has somehow 30 years after given me a platform to actually launch a startup with my daughter, Ning. What we have done with the Culture Story and FOFA is really a startup in the art ecosystem. And I hope that given my experience as in the financial sector, in the media sector, and so on, I can use those experiences and those skill sets to help steer this company, you know, into something which will be more lasting than just a startup which will either disappear after 3 years or 5 years, you know. So in a way, I'm a bit more ambitious, you know. I hope that this company or these two companies will last beyond 2 or 3 generations, you know. It's like if you look at the history of, let's say, Sotheby's, right? It was started 300 years ago by a bookseller, you know. Today, 300 years later, it's owned by a French businessman who bought it, took it private, and he owns it. And his 27-year-old son is running the Asian operations, you know. And I think they will probably continue for another generation or so. So, yeah, I feel that something like this, where there is a lot of passion and commitment involved, I hope that I can take it a lot further.
All the best to that endeavor. I would love to see your two companies grow too, Mr. Chong.
Thank
First of
you.
all, I rather like that name, the family office. for art.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that what it is? Yeah.
Could you just explain a bit about FOFA, the family office for art, Chong, so that
Well,
viewers also understand what you do?
okay. Basically, the family office for art was set up to provide advisory and consulting service for family offices or any individuals who are looking to start an art collection and they need advice in terms of what they should be buying, for the long term. But we also provide advice to collectors who already have a collection, but they need management of the collection. Very often a lot of collectors, and I'm guilty as hell, we just buy, and then after 20 years, you find that, wow, I got 200 artworks, but I don't have proper documentation, I don't have the invoices. Some are missing. I don't have the certificates, they're all over the place. The artworks can be at home, at the office, in the storage area. You ask your secretary to do an inventory and she's too busy or she's not interested. And luckily for me, I have a daughter who's interested. A lot of families, the matriarch or the patriarch has collected a fantastic work, but their kids are not interested. So family office for art provides a service that could help collections to document their works, if necessary, to publish books, based on their collection, and maybe even organize exhibitions for them. So I think these are all pretty much essential services, right? And I think we are probably the first company in Singapore and maybe in Southeast Asia that provides integrated service, because there are people that can provide bits and pieces in terms of warehousing, in terms of insurance, in terms of advisory, and so on and so forth. But I think we are probably the first to have the ability, based on our experience and the network of people that we work with, especially a lot of veterans in the industry who have maybe 30 years of experience in Sotheby's or Christie's or whatever. They are now our consultants and advisors. So we can provide a very comprehensive service to family offices.
Okay, wow. Okay, that's quite a neat niche to be in, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So sorry, Dana, you're going to talk about
Retirement.
yeah.
You don't retire from your life until it's the end, right? I mean, the thing about being a writer or an artist is that it's sometimes a bit difficult to answer some questions. Like, it's just been Chinese New Year, and if you meet your relatives, they'll always say, so are you still writing? Or oh wow, you are still writing. Or worst of all is like, if you say you're working every day, then what is the work? Where is the work? But yeah, you don't retire from it. Which I think is a privileged position to be in, and it's a good thing, because there's some I have this thing about our later years. I do have friends who have built a career and then they've retired, and as you age, I think a lot of us do deal with certain anxieties and loneliness and so on, and especially once if you have had a career and something of a public life, I think it's kind of difficult to transition into suddenly a very private individual dealing with suddenly faced with your own old age, and some friends tells me like, oh, I know I should do this, I should draw, I should So there's this thing, they think that, okay, I should take this thing up as a hobby. But I suppose some people are ready for a hobby and some people are never quite not ready for that hobby because the calling isn't there. And in that case, those other friends of mine, and including myself included, who have continued on the work that we do as part of our being, we are very lucky because in our, whatever things go wrong around us, if we still can read, if we still can pick up a pen and write our thoughts down, if we can still draw, sketch, if we can, in fact, all of this means if we can still look around us and see something in the air, something in the environment, something in life that is worth contemplating, that is a luxury and a privilege, I feel.
Yeah, great. It's good that you raised the idea of being privileged, because both of you are quite privileged to be able to pursue the things that you want to do and are able to do it. There are many out there who are not in a privileged position. And it leads to the question which Abir raised, what advice would you have for the layman, somebody who's not so privileged to embark on the activities that you've done? Dana, going back to maybe your time at Aware as well, where you had to understand the issues that women face, were there any sort of discussions about what takes place in retirement when you have had a job and then you find you don't have a job, and then find yourself displaced, and maybe sometimes even in a situation where there's nothing that you can do to improve your situation? What would you suggest to people who are about to retire, who are already retired, in order for them to stay alive?
Wow. I think it first of all, every individual is different. So it means that what works for me can't work for everybody else. It depends on where you are, who you are, what your environment is, what your home culture is, who are the people around you as well, right? And you mentioned Aware. Aware has been like the single most important education in my entire life. And I feel that because my time there, all of us who volunteers at Aware, or I think any other civil organization, all of us have one thing, all of us come away with one truth, which is that we enter the space thinking we are going to help somebody, but eventually we realize that we are the ones receiving a lot of help and receiving a lot of education. And for me, it really was the best education for me. It opened my eyes and my mind intellectually, emotionally, it increased my ability to empathize. It's very, actually, I think growing up in a middle class situation in Singapore, in this particular environment, or at least for myself, what I noticed is that it's actually very dangerous, because we can actually sail through, though we can actually sail through life thinking that everybody else's life is the same, that everybody else has that opportunity that we have. And sometimes we may judge another person without realizing. We may judge a person who can't read a French word, for example, or don't know his artist, for example, or don't know his wines or whatever. But it doesn't strike us that that person hasn't got that same exposure that we have been privileged to have. At Aware, of course, the idea of having to look at the welfare of the aging population has always been there. It's been decades now, that we've been trying to raise these issues, and finally, I think today we are seeing quite a lot of chatter about it in the media, by the government, and so forth. And I see activities and so on, and being encouraging, even the program like this, right? That we're getting this here. I've lost track of the original question that you were asking, but I do remember one question you sent earlier, which I want to say. And your question was, is society doing enough for the elderly, And my answer to that is, I think I have to ask if I am doing enough for society in terms of our interaction or our care for the elders. It's very easy for us to say, oh, we should respect our elders, we should be kind, we should be compassionate. And I don't think anyone looking at themselves would think, I don't think of myself as an unkind person. I think of myself as a kind person, a generous person, a person with compassion. But I find myself losing it, being impatient, being short, with any kind of disabilities, right? Whether it is a disability of someone who is aged and cannot remember names, someone who's full of anxiety, that if you suggest a change in their routine, they are really flustered, and they will ask you 5 times within the next 5 minutes what they should be doing next. So I am noticing that in myself a lot, I guess, I suppose because I am aging myself, people around me are aging. I notice younger, more able people response to my increasingly forgetting words, everyday useful words, like single syllable words, not even like asking for you for a literary phrase. So I think that teaches me quite a lot going forward. The education that I have to give myself, or that I have to pay attention to, is how to really listen and to understand where the other person is at. A friend of mine who spent many years looking after her parents, who were both with Alzheimer's, said to me the most useful thing: you have to accept. Then I realized you have to accept that they are where they are. They don't know any better. I noticed that we get irritated, we lose it because we think the person, your mother or your grandmother, why is she doing this? She's capable of doing better. She can remember better. She can do better than just sitting in front of the TV all day long and complain that they have pains. The reality is that they can't find it. It's like what they say about dealing with a person with depression as well. It's no point us telling a depressed person, go out and take in the fresh air, because the depressed person is in a state of mind where she can't. Something that looks so simple and easy for us: get out, go out into the garden, breathe the air. What's so difficult about that? Beauty is all around you. But if you're in a state of depression, you can't take that little tiny step. So I think, how do we as individuals learn to deal with this? And a little drop of water makes the mighty ocean, right? So I think that's where it will spread out to a wider society around us.
Okay, that's a profound response. So it's a ripple effect as well, right? Doing good at one point and hoping that it'll spread through. Chong, your thoughts on whether we are doing enough, or whether society is doing enough for the silver generation?
I suppose in the context of Singapore, I think we are doing as much as we can. Of course, it's very, very difficult, right, in terms of how much the government or society can help the underprivileged. There are a lot of charities in Singapore. I myself am a director of a charity called the Red Pencil, and what we do is we use art as a form of therapy, to help especially children who are suffering from poor family situations, like if their parents are in jail, or they are in trauma, and so on. And there are various other charities in Singapore that looks after the underprivileged. So in a sense, I think we can all do our bit, whether it's donating to these charities or actually volunteering in these charities actively, not as a paid worker in a charity, but as somebody who would volunteer his or her time to help the less privileged. So overall, I feel that yes, there is quite a lot of that going around in Singapore, and of course, more can be done. In terms of maybe the younger, more able millennials spending more time contributing both their energy and maybe their financial means to help some of these charities.
Maybe a thought that you might like to share with the audience and whoever else might be watching a recording of this session on the stormasia.com site. Given the life journey that you've had and where you're at now, what advice would you have for somebody who's approaching retirement or thoughts on retirement? I know the word retirement doesn't apply to you in that old sense where you stop a job and you start retirement, but maybe a way to find a seamless transition from one to the next. Would you have any recommendation or something that worked for you as you grew older and got to this stage? Chong?
Well, I think it all boils down to interest and passion, so mine happened to be art. There are other people who are very passionate about maybe golf or maybe pets, or guppies, so there's nothing to stop anybody. Let's say you really like ornamental fish, right? And of course, you can start a little shop selling all kinds of stuff, ornamental fish, guppies, fighting fish, and so on. But assuming that you don't want to, there's nothing to stop you from volunteering or even being employed by such a shop, so you can enjoy your love, every day at literally no cost, right? So I think basically it needs to be initiated by the interests and the passion of the individual. I think there's nobody who can say, look, I've got a magic formula, for you to ease into retirement, because like me, I mean, I like golf, but I'm not as crazy as some of my friends who will go on golfing holidays, 10-day golfing holiday, and they will play like 15 games, I said, how do you do that, right? But they love it, right? And similarly, none of them will come with me when I go on art fairs or museum trips, because they have no interest.
Okay. Dana?
I think find your tribe. It is and although Facebook is evil or has its evil, I think it has been it makes it very easy because they've got these groups, right? If you were interested in hiking, they have serious hiking groups, they have serious nature groups, they have serious bird watching groups. And I think it's finding a community of people who have shared interests can be very enriching. Me and my friends, we have Constance Ingham, she has a group of us who call ourselves the Tuesday group. The Tuesday group meets on a Wednesday, actually, but it just happened that way. But we get together, with potluck, and we talk about the issues that we care about. All of us have a similar sort of interest in literature, society, civil society matters, that sort of thing. So find your tribe. And I think it is, for myself too, it's very important to keep moving and eat less. I'm taking this advice from Kanwajit Science book. And as we go into our age, we have to remember that we should move more and eat less. in order to keep healthy and well.
Mm.
And
Okay.
sort of like, good luck to everybody. We are
Hey,
saying goodbye
great.
now, right? Are we?
Yes, we are. Okay, thanks for the advice. Eat more, eat less, move more, do your own thing, find your own space, and see how well you can develop that. Make the most of your hobbies, I guess. It would be one way to look at it. And thanks to the questions from the audience. I hope we answered them through the discussion. Essentially, I suppose if we are on this path of the Golden Runway, then let's look for the gold and see how best to shine in it and make it work for you, right? So thanks again to Dana Lam and Chong Huai Seng for sharing their thoughts and their achievements as well, I would think, given what you've managed to, how far you managed to take your respective endeavors, and hopes that some of that will serve as a beacon for the rest of you to follow along. Thanks again. Hope Rabbit Year is a good one for you as well.